After completing version 1.3 mission, instead of questioning if Tingyun is really dead, I actually began to wonder why I should even care either way. It is no secret that in comparison to Belobog, Shanzhou Luofu missions are suffering from a decline in writing quality and poor pacing. Tingyun fell victim to this. Not only was she killed off simply for shock value, but also her personality and importance to the story was poorly fleshed out to the point where I found it hard to feel sad and grief for her death. I mean, how could I? I didn't even know the real Tingyun before Phantylia twisted her neck. Despite being the first Shanzhou Luofu character that we came across as we arrived on the ship, and later on was tasked to be our tour guide, Tingyun's role in the story was too generic. It's so generic that even if an NPC would take up that role, the story would have still unfolded all in the same way. Think about it for a moment. Being the first person who we came across and had to save from Mara-struck knights, an NPC could be that. Being an ambassador of the Skyfaring Commission who was tasked to be our tour guide in Shanzhou Luofu, any of Yukong's NPC employees could also do that. Or being revealed as the vessel of Lord Ravager Phantylia, again, an NPC would do. That is not to say that I hate the choice of putting her in that role. No, in fact, it's because I was excited when I first met her, only to be disappointed in the end that I'm asking this question now. Why Tingyun? Compare that to Sampo, for example, who was also the first character that we met as we arrived in Belobog, who then became our tour guide, and at the end was revealed to have a hidden agenda all along. He shared a similar role as Tingyun, except in his case, it worked. He got something unique to him that without it, all of the above roles might not work. Sampo is the one character who could freely travel from the overworld to the underworld and back, even when the border was still closed back then. Who else could bring us to the underworld in the first place if not him? Who else then was more suitable to bring us back to the overworld? And also, he knew the people in charge in the underworld, so it's only natural that he would be the one to help us meet that person, to be our tour guide. He nudged us in certain directions throughout the story. And while he's not always present, when he did appear and was revealed to be the reason behind a certain plot, our reaction would be like, of course it was him. The story even made sure that we kept our curiosity and suspicion of him intact. So when the big reveal happened, that he's a servant to a bigger plot yet to be revealed, it made sense, and it felt rewarding. I knew it. I knew I couldn't trust this guy, was what I said in that final scene. This goes to show that Hoyoverse does know how to write a compelling side character whose presence might not be a constant in the story, but we could still care about nonetheless. They could write a plot twist that by itself is enough of a shock value that a jump scare is not needed. And yet, they dropped the ball the moment we arrived in Luofu. I admit, it was shocking when that cutscene happened, but what was the point? You see, when it is done right, death is a powerful tool in narrative. It creates tension, reveals plot twists, and can emotionally affect both other characters and us, the audience. It makes us fear for other characters' safety because evidently anyone can be killed. There's no such thing as plot armor. And just like other story elements, a character's death should be done only if it's necessary to the plot. It has to serve a purpose. So let me ask you this. What purpose does Tingyun's death serve? A small portion of the fandom could argue that it was Tingyun's death that motivated Yukong to fly once again. It serves as a push for Yukong's growth as a character, but did we even need that? We already explored Yukong's story in her companion mission, and by the end of it, we saw her growth. She came around and decided to support Sayi's daughter's dream to be a pilot. That was her growth. Not only was Tingyun's role as our tour guide unnecessary, her death served no other purpose but for shock value and shock value alone. Tingyun's death was executed poorly. It's cheap it's a disservice to both Tingyun and us, the audience. I mean, they could have gone with the possessed route. They could have left her body there, unconscious after Phantylia exited her. They could have left her alive, and again, the story would have still unfolded all in the same direction anyway. Why went ahead with the fake Tingyun plot? Consider this, right? She was replaced or possessed by Phantylia sometime after we first met her. Or worse, it had been Phantylia all along, which means we had never met the real Tingyun. We never knew the real Tingyun, who she was as a person, what she was like. And even with the fake Tingyun, what was something personal about her that we learned while she was being our tour guide? Nothing. Yet there we stood as Phantylia twisted her neck, and we were supposed to be sad? And then Welt said that we didn't have to worry that the real Tingyun might be alive somewhere, and we had to wait one whole patch for a confirmation. Had they given her a role more significant to the plot, had they let us get to know her along the way, I would have cared more. I would have been impatient for the new patch to arrive, but then I saw the 1.3 trailer, and the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, that's pretty. Are they celebrating a festival or something? Instead of immediately clutching my chest in pain, scared that it was a funeral that we're holding for Tingyun, that Tingyun was really dead. I mean, I'm sorry to all Tingyun mains for saying this, but her death was that insignificant. Then came version 1.3, and Hoyoverse proceeded to shove all these expositions about the real Tingyun in our faces, about how kind and caring she was, how everyone who knew her would be affected by her death should we choose to tell them. As if that was something that they had always wanted to do, just they simply forgot to do it. And as if I wasn't already struggling relating to her death, now they chose to share this information in a not at all subtle way. Like, oh yeah, by the way, we're high-key delivering you a package of exposition. Now, be sad. Resorting to lazy exposition so that you could tick off a to-do list in your story just won't work. Don't tell me that she was kind and caring and had this healthy competition going on with her co-worker and that everyone she left behind would be heartbroken. Show me. Ironically though, a good example of this actually exists in the story, exactly one scene before the big Phantylia fight. It was the exchange between Dan Heng and Jing Yuan. This was the scene that left me clutching my chest in pain because Dan Heng was telling Jing Yuan not to mistake him for Dan Feng simply because they looked the same, and Jing Yuan's response to that was a smile that barely reached his eyes. Two things were happening there. One, Dan Heng who was telling Jing Yuan not to get friendly with him because they were not friends, and two, Jing Yuan who, despite missing his old friend and the ghost of said friend standing right before him, was respecting that request. Barely a few sentences were exchanged between the two men, yet a lot could be read between the lines. It's ironic because that exchange, it took place in the exact same mission as Tingyun's infamous death scene, literally 2 scenes after. That quick exchange caused me more heartbreak than a literal death scene and a funeral preparation. I mean, just where did it go wrong? Sure, I shed some tears towards the end of the preparation as we approached and talked to Yukong, but those tears were sadness for Yukong. Because I had done her companion mission and I knew she had gone through such a loss once, and now she had to once again. Those tears were not because I was grieving Tingyun's death. Which was terrible, because I should have been, right? They had put out all these elaborate expositions about Tingyun's kindness and caring personality. I should have been sad. I mean, they had told me to. And now we've come to my last issue with this whole Tingyun fiasco. With the lack of connection to Tingyun as a character, the soothing ceremony felt like a filler episode than anything else. After spending the majority of the story going around delivering gifts to Tingyun's friends, listening to all the expositions while at it, the ceremony finally took place. It was a beautiful ceremony, not gonna lie, but it was hollow, with the emptiness that should have been filled with sadness of losing Tingyun. Instead, it left me wondering, are we really holding this grand ceremony to honor a playable character that we never even got to know personally? Are we really doing this now? Really? And if you think that was the worst part, wait until the ceremony ended, right? Because then the ceremony ended and the first thing that we talked about was how Jing Yuan needed to get more rest. Gosh, he had not fully recovered from the fight against Phantylia. What was he doing walking around Lo Fu and not resting? Sir, go get some rest. What about the ceremony? Was anyone comforted at the slightest? Heart soothed a little after Ting Yun's passing? Nobody cared. In-game Lo Fu characters didn't. The Express crew didn't. We were so quick to collect our rewards from Jing Yuan, say goodbye to everyone, and then teleport back to the Express. So why did this mission even exist in the first place? Nothing but a massive filler episode that exists so that they could attach the teaser for the upcoming 1.4 story? Nobody knows. So in the end, I can't even say Ting Yun deserved better because I didn't even know her. HoYoverse messed up her character so badly that she became an NPC in playable character clothing. And this is such a letdown because I am a big fan of the Belobog storyline. The ending wrecked me so much that I had to write this essay about Kokole and Serval just so that I could, articulate my grief for them. And now, 3 patches later, and we're in Xianzhou Lo Fu with an unfinished story that we don't even know where it's heading. What is it that they actually wanted to tell us? The quintet? The Phantylia fight? What is it? There's so much left to answer that it would be a shame if the only thing that motivates us to continue playing is collecting the new characters without any real interest in the story itself.